Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Rec Yard every Wednesday night. Welcome in, everybody. We are on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast coming at you live. I'm Marci Marie.
Toonchi,
we've got a good show lined up tonight. We're talking about we're going to give some dirt tonight. We're going to spill the tea about prison labor and some of the companies that you might be really surprised benefit greatly, make millions upon millions of dollars off the backs of incarcerated Americans. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's, it'll be interesting to see what people think of all the products and services that they receive that they don't know is through slave labor. Essentially, that's
Right.
What prison labor is.
And what an appropriate day to have this topic, right? We're celebrating freedom in a way for Juneteenth. It's Juneteenth. It's actually the first Juneteenth, I think, that's a national holiday. Is it the first or second? I think it's the first.
I don't remember the first or the second, or
yeah, it's been
in Texas. It's always been a celebration.
It's been a state holiday for quite a while, but I think it's just now recently a national holiday. Miss Opal Lee, who is the grandmother of Juneteenth, took that and she got that done. She campaigned and she got that done. We see you, Carrie. Welcome in. Denise, welcome in. Carrie says,
Denise, that's my girl.
Carrie says this is the second Juneteenth. So what an appropriate topic as we celebrate the freedom that Juneteenth represents. And we also reflect on the progress that still needs to be made, the movement that still needs to happen. One of the quotes from Miss Opal Lee is, and we've heard it lots of places, right? None of us are free until all of us are free. And that's paraphrased. So don't get me, Opal's people. That's paraphrased. But I did read that today and she's right. So we are still working on freeing the incarcerated population from slave labor, which are disproportionately Black and brown people. I mean, it's just still this culture of oppression, and we are still fighting against the system.
Yes. I want you to make sure that you're highlighting comments.
Has somebody already said something sweet to you?
Oh, yes.
Or okay, because that's the only time you care about highlighting people's comments. Is if Kim, we see you. We see y'all rocking in this chat, and we appreciate you so much. Judy, we see you. Love you all so much. John Lamberton, I see you. Welcome in. Department of Corruption Stories, I see you. Thank you for reminding me to remind the people to please like and share the live. We appreciate you. If you're listening wherever you hear your favorite podcasts, please do leave us a review. We appreciate your support so very much. And here's the comment that sparked the the pressure from my co-host to highlight Donice Cherry, who is a Lioness superstar, formerly incarcerated of 33 years. She says, Jennifer, you are my party animal and you are so precious.
I wanted to make sure that you, of all people, Marci Marie, saw that again. Cherry said I was precious as fuck. That's what
she didn't say precious as fuck.
No, she told me that last week. So I just wanted to remind you.
Sparkle Weasel, moving right along. Sparkle Weasel, thanks for making the live.
I love the name. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Bonus points for an excellent username. Yeah. So glad. And Carrie's just correcting us all, saying Juneteenth was made a federal holiday in 2021. So we were all wrong, but it's still fairly recent. Texas, it's been a state holiday for a long time. And actually, Texas, amazingly enough, Texas was one of the first states to make Juneteenth a state holiday. So we get a little bit of props for that. We don't get props for much, so we're going to take it when we can. Before we get to our topic, which for those of you just dropping in, we are talking about the dirty business of prison labor. And we're going to drop some names that you guys might be shocked. Some corporations, companies, places where you guys go every week that use and benefit and profit from prison labor. Before we do that, let's do this. Let's do a weekly recap. Toonch, how was your week?
Oh man, what a whirlwind. We got back from, if y'all didn't see us last week, we were live from Philly with our special guest, Donise. And Brittany was off camera. I think she was on her phone doing something else in the background. But yeah, we were in Philly for the Clean Slate convening. It was impactful. It was amazing. Enjoyed my time with y'all. And then just got right back and went to San Antonio to see some of the San Antonio Lioness girls. And yeah, they've just been working ever since, trying to catch up from a week of being off. And well, not
Yeah,
we were working, but being off somewhere out of town.
right. We were working out of our normal workspace and getting a different kind of work done because we were making great connections in Philly with the Clean Slate folks, and also learning about how some of these clean slate laws, let's just be frank, they don't help me. They don't help the Toonch. They don't help a lot of our friends like Donise, but they help much lesser crimes, much lesser felonies and misdemeanors. And we learned a lot about how other states have been progressively. They started with these small legislative moves and build up and up and up. And man, we heard an extraordinary number of records that got cleared in Pennsylvania that really sparked a little bit of fire in us. So we're going to see where this goes, if we have capacity to really work with the clean slate, and we've put our feelers out there, and we'll see. So we're excited for that. And then so yeah, we were in Philly, and then I went on to New York with the TikTok prison TikTokers. We get together a couple times a year, and we have a wonderful funder that helps us come together so that we can collaborate and meet other people in justice reform. I made some really good connections and had some really strong conversations and got some ideas. I feel re-energized, and I just got to love on my friends. I just love them all so much, and we live all in different states. So yeah, that happened. It was good. And home again. Today was my first full day home, and I've been working all day.
I sent Marcy a message about, oh, hey, we need to do this. She said, I know.
Yes.
Like, leave me alone. I knew when she said, I know. I'm sorry. I'm just going to turn around and go back out the door. She's got me.
Yes, I got everything done, but I was really busy, quite busy today. And then the kiddos, they're happy to see me, and the baby was like right here. I was literally working at one point, typing with one hand, and his like hands in my face and pulling at my eyelashes and my earrings, and I'm just still typing away like I'm still getting it done. John Lamberton, excuse me, he's watching from YouTube. Thank you, John. Says Texas is a state with the majority of the two characteristics you mentioned. And I don't even remember what I mentioned at this point. I'm not a fan of how the system works, but we have to look at the facts. This is true. We do have to look at the facts, and there's two sides to every story, right? And we don't close our ears to the other side of the story. We're always open to hear new ideas and Um, yeah, and we work on some bipartisan legislation. There's don't come for us, John. We're not shutting you down, John. And then I do have to mention that Denise said I am her rock star, and she loves me as well. Thank you, Denise.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, well, we're fixing to expose some truths, and for those of you who have never really looked into prison labor and who it benefits, you really are going to be shocked at some of the businesses. Every time I look at it, I'm shocked and disgusted by it. Yeah, so let's jump right in, except Carrie S, before we jump in. Now you and Brittany got to visit Eastern State,
Yeah.
the penitentiary. It was the first penitentiary in Pennsylvania, or what was it? Give us the scoop on that.
Oh, it was, I believe, I want to say the first. It's one of the oldest, and yeah, very somber. This is my second time I went to go visit, but this was the first time I went with someone else who had been incarcerated in prison before. So it was it's very somber experience. No ghost, no creepy weird. I had more creepy weird vibes at the bathhouses in Hot Springs. If you've never been to the Hot Springs in Arkansas, beautiful, beautiful land, beautiful countryside. But they have these old bathhouses that they built on top of hot springs, and those were
There's
creepy
ghosties there.
as hell. But I didn't feel creeped out at the prison. I didn't feel anybody lingering or anything like that. It just felt very um, somber. Of like,
Well, I was really proud of you, Tunch, because you took excellent pictures and some video footage for us. And that, if you guys are interested in seeing some of those, you can hit up our Facebook page for the Lioness Facebook page, Lioness Justice Impacted Women's Alliance. If you're not following us on Facebook yet, what are you doing? Or Instagram, both places, you can see those pictures. And I was looking at them, kind of picturing myself in those conditions, because as bad as the conditions were where we were, it's still not as bad as it used to be.
I mean,
So
it was Shawshank Redemption type of structure. If you've ever seen that movie, that's what that building is a lot like, and very tiny cell. I mean, very much what that movie kind of depicts, but grimier and smaller and more confined, and just a lot of history there. And then they had a kind of an exhibit at the end to look at mass incarceration today by the numbers. And just watching, you go in and you're sitting in the day room at the TV, and you're watching like the years and the numbers going up, and all the politicians and all the rhetoric, and it was really impactful. It was a lot.
yeah, I'm so glad that you and Brittany got to do that, and a little bit jealous that I didn't make it to Philly in time, because I went the next day. We have a team. Here's my sister-in-law living that sober life, watching from YouTube, and the three of us are a team with these little kiddos here. So we were trying to make it the best we could, and I was going on to New York, so I left a day late so that we didn't have to worry so much about childcare. But I'm so glad y'all got to do that, truly.
Yeah, and
So
I'm looking at the Facebook, who's joined on Facebook. Oh, wrong live. I just went to some cooking live. But saw Chanel Peaches Jones come in. Hey, girl. Jennifer Mack is here. Love to see y'all with us. Pop in with any comments. Please join the conversation. Let's get into it. Let's talk
yeah,
about this
the dirty business.
the dirty business of, and again, bringing up Shawshank Redemption. I want y'all, as we start to talk about this, if you haven't seen that movie, please. We talked about it in one episode about it being the real go-to about, really, for me, for prison life, emotionally. But there is a scene, the whole end of the movie is about how the warden is corrupt and dirty, right? And so he's getting these contracts from the city and other places because he's underbidding everybody, right? Because he can afford to do that because he's not paying his labor. And one of the gentlemen, tells him, "Hey, you're going to put me out of business doing this," and so he pays him off. But yeah, like, so start thinking about what can you get away with if you're not paying your workforce or
And
compensating them in any way?
yeah, and how much more money you can make if you don't have to pay wages. If you're paying pennies an hour for wages, or if you're using Texas labor, you're paying $0, 0 pennies an hour. And you guys are asking some great questions in the comments. We will hit those up at the end of the show. Don't think I've forgotten about you. I see you, Haley. I see you guys. So yeah, and Department of Corruption says prison industrial complex, more money in their pockets. Now, what businesses do we know happen in Texas? Who uses slave labor? Like what units? Let's get down to it. We know about women's prisons. We know about the Braille program.
Well, let's tell people what TCI is.
Okay.
Do you want to tell them, or do you
Are
want
you
me to?
Googling?
No, but I am pulling up all the TCI industries.
Okay.
So the
TCI is a
okay,
Texas. Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
what it stands for. Go for it. It's the
Texas
prison.
Corrections Institution, Lord have mercy. Y'all
Well,
are gonna
it's
be
the
like,
brand.
this bitch is drinking already.
It's the brand. It's the brand of the Texas prison system when they're using prison labor. Everything that is made by TCI is made by incarcerated Texans.
I'm gonna show y'all. Okay, it is the Texas Correctional Industries. Sorry, TCI, and all of y'all that have been incarcerated. Remember when you picked up your cup, that ugly ass thick blue plastic cup? You look underneath it, and it's got the emblem on here. But let's give a peek here of what this looks like.
Thank you for tuning in from LinkedIn. Love it.
So this is their website, Marci.
Why am I not seeing it?
Is you have to let it on the screen.
I'm not. Oh, I see it now. I see where I'm supposed to. So for those of you that are listening, we're at the Texas Correctional Industries website, and I'm seeing products like scrolling across the top of the website, and I'm seeing things like the flags. I'm seeing office equipment like wooden desks that you might see, I don't know, in a courtroom. How ironic is that? I'm seeing plaques, chairs, school buses.
Yep.
They're making school buses.
Let me tell you this, Marci. So, and we can link it somewhere when we get done. But I think it was when I first moved to Austin. Um, there was a contract that was happening. So they contract with school districts for school bus repair. Okay, they take the
Okay.
buses to the the barn in Huntsville, and the guys work on it. The incarcerated men work on it. So they get contracts to do that with school districts, and I believe it was Houston ISD that people found out that there was a contract between TDCJ and HISD, and people threw a fit. They're like, and I always make sure that our incarcerated sisters and brothers know it has nothing to do with the quality of your work. Like, believe it or not, I just told somebody that the other day. I said, people are not throwing a fit about that. They're throwing a fit about, I don't want to use products that is coming from prison labor, aka slave labor. These people are not compensated, and they're under threat of punishment if they don't work. I don't want to use this. And so they canceled the contract, or they renegotiated. I don't know. When time passes, Marci, and people stop looking at something, they may have done another contract. But I know at the time that people got really upset, and they canceled it. So yeah, there's a plethora of products. Wooden signs, these mattresses. You go to those university, like the University of Texas or whatever university you go to, and you've got the student housing. It comes with a mattress and a little bed and a frame, like dorms. Those mattresses are made by incarcerated people. The stadium seats, the seats we sit in at the Capitol, all the wood stuff, the flags in the courthouse, that is made by incarcerated people. It's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And yeah,
Look at this.
I see trays, silverware, clothing, bathroom signs, placards. Um, golly. Yeah.
Mops, screen prints, signs, benches.
Fencing, fencing and razor wire is produced by incarcerated Texans, and the razor wire that's actually on the border, those buoys, those floating buoys that um, popped up this last year and this year are made by incarcerated folks.
Law enforcement material. Then look up here, the city and court stuff. Those fancy judge chairs, the chairs at the Capitol, the benches you see, safety vests, chain link fence, like all of this stuff.
So it's not just incarcerated folks manufacturing things for the prison, like for, say, garment factory, because we do have a garment factory that makes the clothes that incarcerated Texans wear. We're talking about stuff that's being sold in masses, major business contracts. Imagine how much TCI can undersell a competitor who has to pay wages to their employees.
Right. I mean, you take the in the garment factory, you're absolutely right. It's not just making the uniforms for the incarcerated people to wear, and no, it's more than that. They make all kinds of stuff that the state sells. The Braille contracts that the women at Mountain View, that they are specialized workers. Let's not even get started on the specialized workers that work for profit, right? The industry, TCI, like to produce stuff to sell. We can't prove it, but anecdotally we know that those people are not making parole for a while. Magically, they're just not making parole, and it's like, well, who wants to lose? Kind of like you go back to Shawshank, or like, what happens when he goes to the warden? He's like, hey, there's proof that I'm innocent, and this would help me get out. And what happens? Oh, he goes to extreme lengths to make sure that Andy Dufresne doesn't go nowhere because he's producing for him. And I believe that's what happens to incarcerated people that are working these specialized jobs like Braille. They're not going anywhere. And the state of Texas is making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars off of Braille alone, right? So imagine how much money is being made in the other products.
LinkedIn, whomever's watching from LinkedIn, and I apologize that it's not showing your name. My daughter worked in the factory in Mitchellville Prison in Iowa in the heat. So hot in there, she said. And I can imagine you're bringing up such a good point in these factory type situations. Like TCI has got factories, they're making this product. I'm not convinced that they're OSHA regulated, because no job that I ever had in prison was OSHA regulated.
Right.
So there was nobody overseeing the operation, making sure that the workers had the proper safety equipment, that were taught the proper safety measures. I mean, I remember y'all, I had a job, and this was prison labor, but it wasn't a for-profit job. It was a save the prison money job, right? And it was to dust like the highest part of the ceilings. If you guys can imagine, like if your dorm was inside of a Walmart, like that ceiling, and we had a 20-foot ladder, and I would climb that 20-foot ladder with this huge dust broom that was actually a sidewalk sweeper. That's what we use, those big brooms to knock the dust off of the ceiling. It would be like huge, massive 3-inch piles of dust blankets that would fall. So I'm with that dust. I don't have any covering, no mask, anything. B, I'm on this 20-foot ladder with no harness, and I'm standing on the top rung, where it says don't stand here.
Yes.
I'm standing up on that with absolutely no harness, and reaching as far as I can with this sidewalk sweeper in my hand, knocking the dust and stuff off of the ceilings. There was nobody. All of the staff saw me. We went from dorm to dorm to dorm. They all saw me doing this. This is how I was taught to do it. This is how the girl that did it before me did it, and how the girl that did it after me is doing it now. This is just no safety.
Right.
Any other job, you would be in big trouble if your worker was acting in that unsafe way, and if they got injured, you would be hugely liable.
Right.
The state is not really liable when injuries happen.
Yeah, not right. And that's the other part of this, is that not only do they make money off of this, we also do not have the rights that workers in the free world would have around their labor. And on top of that is that if you do not work the job that you've been assigned, you are disciplined. And so that disciplinary could be not being able to talk to your family. It could be, they don't use ADSEG for punishment anymore, but I mean, they're going to find a way to lock you up, right? Like for investigation. And so,
but they house you. They might not use it for immediate short-term punishment, but
you're gonna, if you get
if you
trouble
refuse
enough,
to work, you're going to go in a lower
case.
custody level, and if you continue to refuse to work, then you're going to go again, and then if you continue, you're going to be housed in, and they don't call it solitary confinement, but it is what it is. This tiny little dirty, filthy cell that you could almost touch the walls any which way. I mean, you just walk a few feet. It's ridiculous, and they're housing people there who refuse to work. You have to work. Department of Corruption says the Oregon DMV pays $30 plus on the streets, and they pay roughly $6 a day on the inside. I don't know if you saw his comment highlighted before. Department of Corruption story says that when you call the Oregon DMV, you talk to an adult in custody. That is a prison job.
Yes, there are several prisons that one of the jobs is working like telemarketing, like answering phones in a call
customer service.
Customer service, yeah.
For businesses like American Airlines. American Airlines uses prison labor in their call center. I mean, we can just start name dropping. I pulled them up. Sprint, Verizon Wireless use those type of prison labor. Fidelity Investments uses prison labor. Avis Car Rental uses incarcerated folks to make your reservations for your car rental. Like those are just that. There's more. I have more that I was really surprised, because I don't know anybody that doesn't ever shop at either Walmart, Target, Aldi, Costco, Kroger, Whole Foods. Where else are you getting your groceries if you're not getting them there, at least at some point?
So let me get this straight. So we can be trusted to make people's car and airline reservations while we're incarcerated for free, not being paid for it, but then can't even get that job when you get out. We don't trust you with people's information, or trust you to do this right.
Yes, exactly. And now I'm having this moment of clarity where I clearly remember being on the phone with these type of service providers, and when it's time to give your credit card information, it takes you out of that call. Have you ever been in on a call where they're like, hold on one moment, and you feel the shift, like, it's you're not with that person anymore?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that in fact, when I make up my car payment, I wonder if it's something like that, because um, they'll say, do you want to pay it with the last four digits of this account? And if I'm using something else, they'll say, hold on, I have to transfer you to a secure line.
Yeah.
And then I go somewhere else and give that information.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Oddly enough, I do have a financial crime, and I have been trusted with people's credit card information. Like, can you book this flight for me? Can you do? And I'm like, hey, I'm not really supposed to be messing with this. So I'll get it all ready for you, and then I'm going to send it to you to put your card in. But it always surprises me. Just how you can redeem your trust. Like, they see me out here not messing up, not playing with people's money, being responsible with my own money, and there's a level of trust. So there's hope for all of you folks getting out of prison where you feel like people don't trust you. You earn it. It doesn't happen the day you come out. They still see pre-prison version of you when you first get out, and then they start to see.
Yeah, I mean, I remember working at Goodwill, and when I was putting in for the assistant manager job over and over, right, with a college degree and work experience, I'd just been to prison, right, and I remember the CEO, like, she was the one talking to me about it, because I kept saying I don't understand what the problem is, and so she talked to me one day on my lunch break like a child and said, well, there's lots of money that you have to be responsible for, and we want you to take some classes to learn how to do a budget. I said, ma'am, I know. When I worked at AIDS Foundation Houston, there was $30,000 worth of gift cards in my safe in my office every day. Right? Like, you're right. Like, and I think the thing that frustrates me the most is that when we hear about, you know the stuff on the inside that we're not paid for in terms of our labor, that we have no choice but to do, or we're going to get disciplined. The same type of work skills and trust, really, because you have to trust us to do all this stuff, to sell quality items. But then we get out here and then we're not trustworthy. We're not able to work jobs that, like, the call centers inside of some of these prisons that these men and women are doing. They can't even barely get a job at Subway, and so it's real hypocrisy. It really is.
It absolutely is. And Jennifer Mack's bringing up a big point about OSHA not regulating, the prison labor jobs. And then if you get hurt, you get
You're
in
in
trouble.
trouble.
If I fell off that ladder, they would have covered their ass in a way that they would have wrote me up for committing an unsafe act. It used to
Right.
be for damaging state property, and they took that off during my incarceration, but it would have been for committing an unsafe act, even though I was under my boss's instructions,
To
even
do it.
though had I not done it, I would have gotten
Get in
disciplinary
trouble.
for disobeying a direct order, like, or refusal to work. Yeah, so,
Well, and the standards to sue over that kind of stuff are different than out here. Like, you have to prove reckless indifference, meaning, hey, maybe Marcy was doing something and it was their fault and it broke, right? Like, we had another standard to prove. Like, well, okay, but did they know? And then they just chose not to fix it. Okay, well, in the world, it don't matter if they knew or not. It was unsafe, and that's what it is, right? So there are these other layers and obstacles, to be able to have your rights recognized as a worker in there. And OSHA doesn't apply at all. And
Annette Annette watching from LinkedIn brings up a good point that there are many punishments for refusal to work. Demoted housing is one. Disciplinary cases that keep you from doing things like, I don't know, call home and talk to your children, or have a contact visit and hug your granny when she comes to see you. Now, these are the kind of consequences, very severe consequences for not working. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's
Sometimes I
okay.
do, but I didn't this time.
You need to, because I get real amped up. I was just going to say that I was looking in the comments, and Denise had said in the Braille facility, before they converted it over to Braille, it was license plates. So they were making license plate. I don't know if there's another unit that is doing license plates. But yes, that was happening at Mountain View for a very long time. And you did have people's information, right? Like it's just such a crazy double standard. And you see that with the state. Whatever works in their favor is what's going to happen. And if it doesn't, then suddenly the narrative and everything changes if it's not tilting in their favor. And the other part of it too is a culture of oppression, right? Like when you look at the field squad in Texas, for sure, and certainly in the South, we know that TDCJ loses money on field squad production, right? Like they're not making buku money off
their
the
agriculture department, even though they do lease the land and harvest food to be sold and hay, these kind of things, they are losing money. They are not breaking even.
Right.
So
why do they do it? Why would they do that, Marci? Why do they still have host squads?
Why would they have a bunch of incarcerated Texans working slaves, like working plantations like slaves? I mean, that's exactly what it is. Why? Because they want to keep the incarcerated population oppressed. You are not learning a skill out there. Some people will say, and I have read it, Amanda Hernandez, I read your quote in one of the articles I read today, and it said inmates are learning valuable lessons like how to use certain tools. It's an Aggie that you swing, or I don't even know what it's called. That's how little they taught us. They gave us this something that looked like this big hammer to literally break rocks. I have literally stood out there and broke rocks. Yes, you taught us how to, what everybody knows as an instinct, how to swing an Aggie or a hammer. We know how to do that.
It's a chain gang, right? Like a boss on a horse with a big 10-gallon hat with a shotgun, with a straw hanging out of his mouth, while there is a line of incarcerated people, men, women, like you see in the movies, and they've got their Aggie, and it's in time, and they made us sing. Like, let's be honest, let's be real. They made us sing. They made us, like, the boss would like have these little competitions with the other squads of look at my squad doing this chain gang song, and we're all swinging these Aggies.
Yeah.
What did we learn, Marci?
We were singing Engine number 9, swing that Aggie right on time. We just random, randomness. It was very much just about the culture of oppression. It was not about growing our own food to eat. It was not about making money for another company. It was just about, we were losing money. We were losing money from it. John Lamberton's bringing up how they use ACA as a basis to cover safety issues, and that is a sham. ACA, what happens in a Texas prison when it is ACA inspection time?
Oh, Jesus. Honey, they all, we had to go out and hustle and clean the unit and repaint stuff and paint over mold and put in, at least the only thing I looked forward to is that we did at least get new shower curtains. That's the only time they're going to be clean for the month that ACA's there, and then they just going to be gunked up and nasty. But it was slap on a coat of paint, cut the grass, pick up the trash, and everybody is getting treated well, and we're going to have lunch good all week.
Yes, Lord, they would feed us good when ACA was there, and you weren't going to be standing on top of a 20-foot ladder with no harness. You weren't doing those things. You were we weren't being worked like that when ACA was there. You're right. It's absolutely a sham. The fact that those are scheduled blows my mind. Why are people not dropping in? There is zero accountability. We need folks, legislators, we need you to just drop in. Drop in. And then don't just go to whatever dorm, whatever religious dorm, faith dorm, privilege dorm. Don't just go there. Ask to see the medium custody dorm first. And I remember when those visitors came too, they were radioing. You remember when the pod
Mm-hmm.
boss, if you were sitting in the day room and you'd hear the radio and they'd have some code for it, and then she'd jump up and she'd be like, so and so's walking, y'all make me look good. And if it was a good
Yes.
law, we sure listened.
Yeah.
If it was a law that treated us decent, we always
We
tried to
didn't
make
do
her
it.
look good. Right. If it was a law that didn't treat us too well, we were trying to get the people's attention to talk to, which was always a little scary because they're walking with the warden.
Right. I pulled up some pictures here just so people could have an understanding of what the host squad looks like. We can't impress it on people any more than we already have, but maybe pictures will help. That this is literally being transported back to slavery
Plantation.
times,
Yeah,
right? Because
plantation days.
there was nothing. I remember us being out there for hours, Marcy, swinging it and chopping on grass, because that's what they called it, chopping on grass. There was nothing. It's not like we were harvesting food. It's not like we were, doing maintenance around the unit to keep it clean or whatever. It was just us at the river bottom or up on a hill, just moving rocks and putting rocks in bags and taking them to one place to the other, and then just, do you know how quickly you could just take a tractor with the just basic blade that they pulled behind it and just cut all this grass?
Tractors that they do indeed have.
Yes.
They have that equipment, and there's actually incarcerated folks that are trained on that equipment that drive it. It's literally just to keep us in that hard physical labor in a line. And I think if you put pictures up, I didn't see. So let me go see if I'm supposed to be doing something here. So what you're showing here is incarcerated Texans lined up with an Aggie, swinging an Aggie. They're lined up in a line, and they have to be on time. You're not just working at your own pace. Like it's one up, down, up, down, up, down. It's you're in cadence. And if you get out of cadence, disciplinary case. There is
Yes.
an armed officer on horseback directing you, yelling at you. Jennifer Mack said field bosses terrorizing your housing unit if you don't work. People would get mad at you if you didn't work because that would bring the host squad bosses in. And
Yep.
she's talking about them destroying pictures. The host squad bosses are a gang of their own. They get
Yeah.
away with the most on the unit. They have each other's back. They lie. My first year in prison, and y'all, there are some good ones. But guess what? Even the good ones are kind of shitty people because they see everything that's wrong and they don't say shit about it.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. And I loved some of my host squad bosses, but I also acknowledge that you're kind of a jerk because you didn't ever do anything about some of the stuff that goes on. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about going on is the host squad bosses being mad at someone who maybe filed a grievance or maybe mouthed off and made them mad, and come in like a gang and tear up that person's house to the point where, just like Jennifer Mack saying, family photos are torn, hygienes are poured on the floor. And I witnessed it with my own eyes. I was on second floor looking down at the host squad boss tear up one of the cubicles below me. And I watched the sergeant pull razor blades, a shaving razor that had been torn down, and and had them in her hand. I watched her pull them out of her pocket and have them in her hand and say, "Well, look what I found here." And
Yep.
why would she do that? That's because that's a major case.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's why she did that. Yeah, it's very oppressive, and again, this isn't even about money. This prison labor isn't even about money. It's
Right. Right.
literally about keeping this culture, like the pictures that you're seeing. There are some that are backdated 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and some that are more current, and they all look the same. Nothing has changed. Any plantation movie that you, or any old movie or movie that you have watched that is set in plantation days and they have showed slaves working in the fields, that is what we're looking at here. That's what is that movie, George Clooney, that prison movie? Do you remember what it's called? They're doing prison labor, and that's what it looked like.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
they were that's yeah,
Girl,
yeah.
this picture gets me every time I look at it. And this was in the early 90s. Um, Crane. A lot of these pictures were Crane. Here's some other pictures of the ladies with their Aggies.
And the one
Uh,
that you showed, it flat out, that's not posed.
right.
Those are incarcerated people. And so let me just, for the folks of you that are listening to us and can't see the picture, I am looking at a line of Black people, straight up. It couldn't have been more obvious in this picture what this is about, what this job is about. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, and that's all that field squad culture was about. You remember when I don't did they put y'all on the tractors?
Yeah, yeah, so the way that they would sometimes get us to and from the unit to the fields, which were far out, we would get on, like, if you're at the pumpkin patch with your kids and they take you for a hayride, it was similar to that. It's a tractor, with pulling a trailer that it has hay around to sit in it. The deal was, though, we had to, first of all, the weather, if it was cold or if it was so hot, it was miserable. When it was cold, riding that trailer was horrible because your body has stopped moving. I remember just like doing everything I could to stay warm, but we weren't allowed to have our heads up. We could have our heads up for like a moment, but once we passed a vehicle, we passed houses, we passed street signs, they would make us all just have our head straight down. And
Mhm.
that's it really was. I was, I mean, I don't know. Those Some of those moments out there on Host Squad, I mean that's the real, you know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
slaves slaves didn't go to the outhouse, and we barely went to the bathroom. We were all out there in the field doing what we had to do.
yeah,
Uh,
squatting and peeing and circling around each other when you had to do that. And
mhm.
see, Donise cussed out Sergeant Sellers, who
Mm.
became Warden Sellers. And we all, I'm not going to go down that road again, but I want to every time I hear her name. Um, but she was leading us. Hey, she was a sergeant at the time. Maybe Donise remembers this. And she drove a woman to unalive herself. She did. She did. She bullied that woman relentlessly. And one day, the lady, she was an older lady on the squad, and she said something, and she had them come over here and lock her up, take her to, ADSEG was at reception, and the lady unalived herself the next day, and everybody said she was just merciful. Those whole squad bosses are they're a whole nother level. It's just really it's horrifying, right? Like
We
it is.
We have done, I think, pretty much a whole show on Field Squad, and we may need to do another one because it's a whole thing. Like the
Yeah.
stripping, the restrooms, the culture, the cruel ways that we're made to stand, and like it's really something. I was on, and John Lamberton saying assholes and elbows, and he's talking
Yes.
about
Yeah.
being so close. We would be in that line with those with swinging those hose, and you would be so close to the person in front of you that your knuckles, if she had any kind of booty like I did, your knuckles would be brushing up on her clothes, and you would go in with bloody knuckles, and there would be, all of us would have these like bloody patches on the back of our shirts, or the top of our pants where the person behind us, like that's how close you're standing. Yeah, they, in fact, when you're on the unit and they're needing to crowd people in an area, they will say, "Ho squad tight." That means get right up on them. Press your body onto the person in front of you. That's how tight you need to be. Ho squad tight.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and Marcy, you again, let's make the point here that while you have the 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 labor that is making money and for profit, then you have something like the host squad and the field squad that is not making profit. It is a culture of oppression, right? That's why they keep it. You're 100% spot on. They keep it for the, I get to wear my boots and my hat and I get to have this persona, and that's the reason the host squad bosses are different. They are in that mindset out there on the field like that, and that is the only reason it exists. Now, the other jobs, it's exploitation, period. But I think the motives are different for each type of exploitation. But it all boils down to slave labor. That's exactly what it all is.
Absolutely, it boils down to slave labor, and there are other corporations that might surprise you that I didn't bring up.
Well,
And
let's tell them.
yeah, corporations like those golden arches, McDonald's, Wendy's, Starbucks. Ella Frawley, we see you watching from YouTube. Yeah, Starbucks. And then clothing stores like Victoria's Secret, J.C. Penney. I mean, Coca-Cola, General Mills, Pepsi, Tyson. I mean, it's just it's it's a plethora of businesses. The Marshall Project did a really excellent article about that, and I will put it on our Facebook page. And it shows them making foods like uh, soybeans, corn, wheat, ice cream for businesses like Walmart, Target, Costco, and Whole Foods. So we will put some articles. Toonch, I'm hoping you'll do that too with some of your things that you've been showing. We will put that in our Facebook page. If you need to follow us on Facebook, guys, you get to see Toonch doing lots of silly things. She does that. She does that for us, for our entertainment.
Well, Marcy, we probably, not that we need to add more stuff to what we all do. We probably need to have on the rec yard on the other platforms too, I guess. Because people make fun of us that we go so hard on Facebook all the time. Our community embraces Facebook quite a bit. I'm just saying. And TikTok.
I was surprised the amount of friends that I had coming out of the penitentiary that were hitting me up on Facebook when I was fresh out of prison, like in the halfway house on my contraband cell phone, just learning about Facebook. I was getting all these messages. And that's actually the first time I tried to get somebody messaged me from a hacked account saying, "Do you have Cash App?" And I had never heard of Cash App before in my life. And I just said, "I don't think so. Do I need it?" And they just ignored me. They're like, "Oh, she's too
She's too
stupid
green.
for us."
She's right.
Yeah. 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 Oh, Jennifer Max reminding us that George Clooney movie is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And when you
Yeah.
see them working out in the fields, it's just like that. Uh, Lee, thanks for reminding us to have everybody hit that like button, hit that share button. If you're watching on your cell phone, tap that screen several times for us. We appreciate you so much. And yeah, like we said, Jennifer, we need to do another episode again, probably on Field Squad. We need to circle back to that, having to strip in back to the unit from host squad while you're on your cycle is a story in itself. That right there could be an entire episode, just that, but goodness, do we have time for some questions? Do you have any final thoughts about prison labor?
Well, I would just say, it's really hard in a capitalist society to eliminate purchasing from bad corporations. But just do your investigation and do the best that you can, and don't spend money at places that don't serve your community. And I know that can be tough. And sometimes it means spending a little bit extra money at a local store, um, or a local coffee shop, or a local resale dealer. But just do your investigation. Find out where this stuff is that you're buying from, where it comes from, how it's made, because you contribute when you buy it. So
Most definitely. And Eric's just been talking through the chat. I've been highlighting his comments. Young lady that I was incarcerated with got injured at work and is currently in a wheelchair because of that injury. And yes, we hope that they help her too. We know that that's not very likely that they're going to do much to help her. So, goodness gracious, we do have some questions. Let's see. Ella is asking, what do you think about Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Has your opinion changed? And I'll just say she has been out there, Toonch. I don't know if you've been following her, but she's like spending a lot of money, hanging out with a lot of rich folks. She's being interviewed by prominent networks and getting paid for it. I'm not mad at her, honestly. Uh, I think I don't know many people that wouldn't do that if that money was right there, and it's her story to tell. She's
right,
not telling someone else's story.
right, it's her story. She can tell it how she wants to. I think she was, you know, harmed enough in her life that she should enjoy her life any way she wants to, as long as it's legal. And my only thing was, I don't like Kim Kardashian, and she's a Swiftie, and I just don't know how she hung out with Kim Kardashian. That's a whole nother episode on another channel about how you got to be loyal to as a Swiftie. But other than that, Gypsy girl, live your life. I'm glad she dumped that man, because he
Yes.
was a nightmare and he was an abuser, an emotional abuser. Go live your life, be happy, and screw anybody that wants to tell you how to tell your story. It's yours. It's yours.
I agree. I think that anytime you put yourself out there, no matter how you do it, you can do it in the most non-profitable way possible. You're still going to get negative feedback, and I'm frantically scrolling through the comments trying to look because there was a few more questions. So
Well, and I love the idea. Maybe we could do a whole episode on, what is it ethical? Is it right for people that have committed crimes to talk about their offenses and receive compensation for it? And that's been, the Son of Sam laws were struck down because that was deemed unconstitutional. There are rules in prisons that you can't run a business, so like you can't get a check for writing an article, which is another weird. But anyway, I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm always gonna say, it's your story. Who is anybody to tell you you can't talk about something?
Haley is watching on YouTube. Hi, Haley. She says in Colorado, which for those of you that don't know, that's my home state, and we will be in Colorado next month. So in Colorado, we have the ban the box law about not asking if someone has a felony on job and housing applications. Does Texas have something similar?
No. Well, you go to a city, for instance, and you can have city ordinances that, ban the box. But the problem with ban the box is, okay, well, they ban the box, but then you get through the interview and you get through the application. They're like, yeah, we're ready to hire you. Then they run your background, right? Like, it just means that you get to go in front of them, but it still doesn't mean they can't say no because of your background. It's just kind of to help you get another step further along in the process. Yeah, Jennifer's
So
right. The city of Austin has the ban the box.
And we're going to just wrap it up with these final thoughts. But Lee, watching from YouTube, says some prisoners are selling paintings and books while in prison making money. So they're doing that in a roundabout way. They're not doing that in a direct way. They're find a way, make a way kind of folks. And so I know that sometimes organizations will sell prison art and then make a donation to the artist. And so they kind of they figure out how to go around that. Toonchi, any final thoughts?
Well, when you're not getting paid for your labor and you have to buy all your basic needs, you better figure out a hustle to make some money to be able to do that. So
Big facts for certain. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. This truly is our favorite night of the week. You are our people. We love you so much. We love hanging out with you. Thanks for liking, sharing the live, all of those good things. Remember, if you're listening, wherever you hear your favorite podcast, is that iHeartRadio? Is it Spotify? Is it iTunes? Did y'all know we were at all those places? You can hear us on the car, in the car. You guys leave us a review in those places, and we will be back here next Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Same time, same place, folks. And Toonchi, for those of you that are only listening, you're missing Toonchi. She's breaking it down for our final thoughts. And we'll be here next week. Love you all so much. If I can do this real smooth.
Out with us on the Rec Yard Women's